Well, we're in the garden again, and what we're looking at here is a beautiful shrub called a potentilla. Potentilla are, of course, they're not wild, they're cultivated, but even cultivated bushes like this, which are in ornamental bushes in gardens, are actually really important. Lots and lots of insects depend on them, and more than insects. It's a tiny little bee. Actually, it's probably an early mining bee, or no, an early bumblebee. It's very small. But big bumblebees depend on them too, and hoverflies and everything else. But there's a whole world in here, and it's really worth looking at. And this is a flower crab spider sitting in a potentilla flower. And you can see it has caught a little fly. If you look at the spider, this one has sort of red stripes on its flanks. It's a female, and they're able to change colour, and she's taken on the creamy kind of yellow of the potentilla. It's a beautiful spider though. It doesn't make a web. Now you'd actually struggle to see it if you didn't know what you were looking for, unless you happen to just be lucky enough to see it against the right background. You can see this spider is called a crab spider. It holds those front legs out like crab's claws. Now this is a tiny species of weevil. They're known as pea weevils, but they're actually pollinating beetles. He's lovely. Look at that. The really long nose. At the end of that nose is the jaws actually, with which it eats pollen. Now, of course, there are weevils which are problems, but not all of them. Bear in mind, I mean, they all have their own purpose and function. There's a tiny fly, absolutely tiny fly, feeding on the pollen, or the nectar actually. Flowers release nectar in the hope that the insects will be attracted. This is a tiny, tiny flower. It's a little bit bigger than well, I suppose it's like a bramble flower, not much bigger. And this is a more typical pollinating beetle. It's lovely, tiny thing. And just so you can see, there's my thumb against the flower. Give you a sense of scale. And there's a little beetle. He's not moving around much right now. And this is a small species of bee, a sweat bee as they're called, because in other countries they have a habit of drinking your sweat, getting into your teardrops as well, because like in African countries. But we have some species and they don't really come near us. They're supposed to have quite a powerful sting though, so I don't go out of my way handling them. Somewhat like the mini miner bee, except slightly more waspish. But a beautiful bee.